Hi, I'm Richard Baer, the District Manager for the Villages Community Development Districts. I'm here today to give you an overview of your local government within the Villages Community Development District format. You see there all the different services that we offer, and I'm going to describe those in just a second. First of all, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day. I know that you have many opportunities for various recreational and other activities. I want to let you know that we have an outstanding and dedicated staff, and I also want to let you know that our success depends on your interaction and involvement with your district government. Our guarantee to you is to sustain the community in the manner with which you moved into it, and we're very proud for which we use our core values, as will be described today, to keep the community in the same condition as you moved into it. Before we start, I just want to go through just a couple things. There are a number of different services that are offered throughout the various community development districts. So for the majority of you, you live in a numbered district. Right now, 1 through 13. And so those districts run all the way from Lake and Marion County up in the town of Lady Lake area, just south, all the way down to the edge of what will be Leesburg. Some of you live in the VCCDD unnumbered district area over perhaps in the historic area in the town of Lady Lake and unincorporated Lake County. This slide is meant to show you all of the different services that are offered to you depending on which district you live in. Let's take, for example, if you're questioning who provides my NSCUD, North Sumter County Utility Dependent District Solid Waste Service. And if you look, for example, at the second bullet, number 3, you'll see there that that sanitation service for District 5 through 11 is provided by NSCUD. We'll discuss what a special dependent district is in just a second. Some of you may say, who provides the maintenance on that infrastructure that the Community Development District is responsible for? Well, if you look down to bullet 4, you'll see that the VCDDs individually provide that maintenance on VCDD. That would be the Villages Community Development District infrastructure owned by whatever numbered district that you might live in. Again, you could live in the VCCDD area, Villages Center Community Development District. That would be the historic district, and those areas in the town of Lady Lake and unincorporated Lake County. And we'll discuss that just in a second. I know we're throwing a lot of acronyms at you, but we're going to go through each of these in a lot more detail. So I think this is an important slide that will give you a plethora of information and help guide you through who delivers what services as part of, if you will, the all-in, what's referred to as the district government. So the next slide, I mentioned a little bit about a community development district. Well, what is it really? Well, the technical answer, as you see on the slide, is a community development district is a special purpose unit of local government. It's established by Florida Statute 190. Now, if you have a little bit of insomnia, I'd pick up 190 and read through it. Just a little joke there, but it's very detailed and goes through all the various aspects of this special purpose local government. Some questions you might have that we're going to address during today's presentation is, what does it mean to me to live in a CDD? Again, a community development district. What do the CDDs do? What do they do for me in my daily life? For example, how do the CDDs get started and how long will they last? What is the difference between the CDD and the development? We'll also talk a little bit about the difference of a CDD, the developer, and an HOA. And of course, you're going to have a lot more questions that will come into play as we move through this presentation. If you do, you will see a website at the end of it. That's our website, districtgov.org, and you can certainly email or call customer service at 753-4508, and we're available to take those questions and address them for you. So it's easy to sometimes understand what the functions of a community development district are when we talk about what we do not govern. So you see a list here of the things that we don't govern. Everything from downtown entertainment, private businesses, the Sharon Entertainment, real estate sales, construction, those issues of warranty on your private home sites. Law enforcement specifically is not allowed under Florida Statute 190. Things like mosquito control, animal control, specifically handled by the Lake, Sumter, and Marion County, and also for animal control handled by the town of Lady Lake by special designation. And then traffic signalization and coordination is handled by the local government by agreement in which you might live, even if the signals are within the collective villages area of numbered unit development. And then land use issues. So rezonings and other land use issues, it could be fireworks, it could be noise ordinances. Those land use items are regulated by the county or local city or town government in which you reside. Some of you coming from other states will recognize or may not recognize all of the counties that are shown on this Florida state map. There are 67 counties, and as you look at these counties, you see that there are 412, or at least at the time of this presentation, that existed within those counties throughout the state of Florida. It's important to realize that the VCDD, the Villages Community Development District, as a community all in, that we have a village population bigger than 96% of all of the city and town municipalities across the state of Florida. In fact, it's 17th largest of the 412 that I just mentioned. And also of our counties, we fall right in the middle. Our population is roughly larger than half, or 30, if you will, of the counties within the state of Florida. So we're talking about, when you look at the state of Florida and the population all in of the CDDs, number districts 1 through 13, you're talking about a fairly large population in the area of about 135,000 people as of this production in January of 2021. Some of you may not be familiar with a special district or a community development district, but it's pretty prevalent in this state and other states. As you see here, there are, at the time of this publication, roughly 1,800 special districts. A number of them are independent districts, roughly 2/3, and 1/3 are dependent districts. Every square inch of the state of Florida is covered by a special district with, for example, water management districts. They cover the entire state of Florida. We'll talk about in just a second what independent and dependent districts are. An independent district is created by the state legislature with local government approval for a specific purpose and specific area. So for example, in the villages, we're created with a specific purpose of maintaining the common infrastructure, providing recreation, providing fire service within the villages, and a number of other elements which involve your daily life that we'll talk about in just a second. The special district, the CDD, derives its authority from the provisions in the Florida state statutes. We mentioned Florida Statute 190, and there are other supportive statutes, if you will. The funding and purview of each one is set by the legislature. So what that means is that each special district generally is bounded by, if you will, Florida Statute 190, and specifically may have additional duties as assigned by the legislature. I mentioned before some examples of special districts. You might be familiar with a water management district around the state of Florida. For example, the majority of the villages is in Southwest Florida Water Management District, Swiftmud. And another part of our area of the north and very eastern part of our special districts are part of St. John's Water Management District. A lot of other areas of Florida are covered by inland navigation special management districts. And then one of the most prevalent types of districts are fire service districts to provide fire service. A dependent special district is created by the city or county in which the district resides. So these are very specific special purpose districts, and they derive their authority from the government that created them. Examples of dependent special districts include the Downtown Development Authority for redevelopment of downtowns that you'll see around the state of Florida, community redevelopment authorities, special taxing districts for very special issues. It may be the installation of street lighting, for example. Or in the villages, North Sumter County Utility Dependent District provides utilities, as we mentioned, for districts 5 through 11, as well as solid waste services for district 5 through 11 and other districts as well. Some history, and I'm not going to go through this line for line, but this history takes you through the evolution of the special districts. It goes way back to 1822, as you can see, when there was a need to create a territorial governing mechanism to build roads, highways, and ferries. And that was called the Road, Highway, and Ferry Act. You can do a little more research on that. And then there was another actually section of the special district, if you will, for Alachua-Savannah Drainage District. And that was created, and that established, if you will, the basis of the, what we talk about, assessable acreage, which you'll see develops into the foundation for not only bonds, but also for maintenance fees. And the Alachua-Savannah, again, a special district, a drainage district in 1845, was based on the number of acres owned and the benefit of those owners that they derived from that drainage project, if you will. Over time, as development and pressure increased in the state of Florida, developers and attorneys took the old Chapter 298, which was basically the codification of the general drainage laws of 1913, and they actually began to individually ask the legislature for special districts and for special considerations, for conditions of the creation of these districts, these district areas, if you will, and they asked the legislature for additional powers, such as governance of roads and bridges, water, sewers, and sometimes parks and recreation services. So you can understand how that would set up for the legislature of the state of Florida, and also for the recipients of those services, very different conditions, and a non-conforming set of circumstances by which these special district areas were created early on. As a result of using Chapter 298, as I just mentioned, there was no uniform or consistent application. And each district was different and operated under whatever authority was granted at the time of the request. During Reuben Askew, the governor at the time of 1973-1974, there was a question asked about the accountability, the standards, and the lack of uniformity that we discussed relating to these special district areas. So in 1975, the new Communities Act was enacted, and it really was to foster a more uniform method for creating economic development throughout the state of Florida. You can think of the economy at those times, and so economic development was very important, and development laws and rules began to be overhauled. In the 1980s, the question came up, are special districts in the state's interest? There were many committees formed, and the state came back with an answer from those committees. The answer was yes. And as a result, the legislature adopted Chapter 189 and 190, which are the efficacy and the support, if you will, for community development districts. These are, again, independent units of special purpose government of the state of Florida. Chapter 190 legislative intent was for long-range planning, management, and financing, and a perpetual entity to operate and maintain community infrastructure. And we'll talk about what community infrastructure is in just a second. It was also to allow large landowners the mechanism to invest the time and their financial resources to undertake development in a large-scale kind of size, if you will, with the legislature, and have a certainty that a public-private partnership would result based on their investments. Why does the state and why do we have special districts? Well, the special districts create a board of elected members, a board of supervisors, and it creates a council-manager form of government to provide efficient management of the district. I provide the day-to-day operations as the district manager under contract for those independent and dependent districts. The districts themselves allow the municipalities and counties to focus on more general governmental issues. We talked about some of them insofar as law enforcement and land use and zoning. The districts do not duplicate services offered by the cities and the various counties throughout the state of Florida. General money to pay for the projected growth is levied only to those people that actually receive those services. So our maintenance fees are, if you will, enacted to those recipients of those specific services. It doesn't burden the entire county, if you will, residents for issues that are done within community infrastructure within the villages, since only those benefit from the special district services are required to pay for those services. And those services, the majority of them the vast majority are paid for by your maintenance fees. The special districts also ensure accountability of public resources. Unlike a homeowners association or a property owners association, special districts have elected officials that must conform to all the same criteria and all the same rules and laws that county commissioners, town council members, and city council and commission members have to conform to as well. These would include all of the ethics, sunshine law, public records laws, financial reporting, and financial disclosure laws and statements. The special districts protect your property values by assuring that property owners that their roads, water, and sewer lines and other essential facilities and services will be continued to be maintained. And what I would stress is maintain in the manner and style with which you purchased your home at that time of purchase. It saves monies for affected citizens by selling tax-exempt bonds because we are a local government, purchasing essential goods and services tax-free, and being able to piggyback on other jurisdictions' purchasing powers, and participating in state and federal programs and initiatives that allow greater purchasing ability through broad economies of scale. It maintains the financial integrity of the special district by limiting its liability to civil lawsuits and providing state and federal assistance in the event of a financial emergency, just as you would see in any other local government sect insofar as a town, city, or county. So if you are a developer, how do you develop properties in accord with Chapter 190? Well, the developer purchases the land, and then what happens next? This somewhat complex, but somewhat simple, if you will, at the same time, flowchart describes that process. The developer petitions the state and local governments to establish Chapter 190 district or districts. The local government reviews, and if approved, the state then reviews, and if they approve, the local government insofar as a community development district is established. Landowners, because initially there's no residents within the district, of course, so the first landowners elect the first board of supervisors. Board members begin to transition to qualified elector positions, the same as you would have with a city election or a county election or a town election. So those board members begin to transfer and transition to qualified elected positions elected by the general public when the district is both 6 years old and has a minimum of 250 qualified electors or voters residing within the district boundaries. The developer enters into an interim funding agreement with the district because initially there isn't a funding source because there is no revenue coming in from maintenance fees and also from the bonds because there's no bond sales because there are no houses. The developer begins construction of infrastructure as required by local government. The local government, the city, the town, or the county provides all the governmental standards for design of that local infrastructure. That might be utility systems, stormwater collection systems, sidewalks, and roadways, for example, and also provides for all the inspection. The district issues bonds based on an engineer's report of estimated costs of the infrastructure construction costs. The developer is reimbursed for construction costs up to the estimated cost, the bond amount. Any additional costs are the developer's responsibilities. And what I think we've seen within the CDDs is normally those costs of estimate in the engineer's report are exceeded because you will note various changes are made during construction. And those are the responsibilities, of course, of the developer. The district bonds are paid off through assessments on individual properties. They are either paid in full or are billed on an annual tax bill from the county with which in the home is located. Other than road infrastructure, which is turned over to county government except in Marion County and Villa roads, and that would also include now the city of Wildwood south of 44, annual maintenance assessments on tax bills paid for the upkeep and operation of the district's infrastructure built with the bond proceeds of the district. So we talk about the village community and the village community development districts all in. So what is it really? Well, we talked about its community development districts, the numbered districts, if you will, districts 1 through 13. It's the VCCDD, the Village Center Community Development District, which incorporates various areas, including the Town of Lake area, the historic side, unincorporated Lake County, Sumter Landing CDD, the Bromwood CDD, that are generally referred to as well as the VCCDD as commercial districts, and it spans approximately all collectively right now 74 square miles. As I mentioned before, a population of approximately 135,000 residents. We talked about, insofar as the process by which a CDD is established, a landowner and a qualified election process. Let's talk about that a little bit more. Each district, CDD, is governed by 5 supervisors that are elected by either a landowner or a qualified registered voter election. Bear in mind that the landowner is the first appointment of a board supervisor because there are no residents residing in that district once the boundaries are created and authorized by the state. Qualified or registered voter election process, we talked about a little bit, over 6 years in time after the creation of the CDD, and also 250 voters reside within that CDD. And that transitions that board from a landowner, totally appointed board, to qualified board supervisors elected by the people. A landowner election is when you're not required to be a registered voter, but must be a landowner to vote. So you must own land within that CDD. A landowner election is separate from the general election, and a landowner election allows 1 vote per acre or part of an acre. A qualified election, which you'd think of as a typical city council, town commission, or county commission election, you're required to be a registered voter, and the election for the board supervisors will be on the general election ballot. All registered voters are entitled to 1 vote. What that means is you could be a renter living within a CDD, just like as you live within a town, a city, or a county, and renters, as long as they are registered to vote under Florida statutes, then they may vote as well. This shows you the landowner transition qualified and registered voter tabulation. And we'll go through this in a little more detail, but villages, community development districts 1 through 13 are either fully or transitioning from a landowner elector board of supervisors to qualified electors. Bear in mind that most of the districts have already gone through the transition process, districts 1 through 10, and we'll talk about district 11 through 13, which are going through the process right now. You must, again, be 6 years old as a CDD and 250 qualified voters to begin that transition process from landowner to qualified elections. North Sumter County Utility Dependent District has totally transformed into a qualified elector sort of special dependent district. Landowner electors populate the boards of the VCCDD, the Village Center Community Development District, the Sumter Landing CDD, and the Bromwood CDD boards. How are the community development districts 1 through 13 governed? Well, as I mentioned, initially they are landowner election governed. There are 5 supervisors in each district. You see there the 6-year and 250 qualified voter transition description that we've discussed. Districts 1 through 10 are all qualified electors, as I mentioned. District 11 is in that process with 2 qualified electors and 3 landowner elector seats, and that's just actually in the transition process with this last election. District 12 has 4 qualified electors and 1 landowner elector seat. The final landowner seat will be qualified in 2022. That means that another resident, can join the board and run for election to that board. District 13 has 5 landowner electors and has just begun to have residents there this past year in 2020. And the transition will begin in 2024 after 6 years and 200 qualified electors. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to wait the entire 6 years and 250 qualified electors to have residents on the board. Many times the landowner elector will choose residents to be on the board that exhibit an interest in their local government or otherwise are involved in or with their local government. The management agreement with the Village Center Community Development District provides for management services, and that keeps the cost down and increases the efficiency. What that means is that each little individual district does not have to hire a district manager, does not have to hire a fire chief, a finance director, does not have to rent space and also purchase or lease vehicles to do all of the things that a government normally does, as well as a plethora of other things and functions. It keeps those costs down. So, for example, District 1 only pays for the portion or consumptive value based on an allocation methodology that they consume of any service that is offered through the Management Services Agreement. You see here a tabulation of acreage and number of homes within each of the district with the current boundaries. Bear in mind that District 13 only has its first unit development underway, and so we'll see additional units as we move on there. As I mentioned before, the Board of Supervisors are governed as any other elected officials are for towns, cities, and counties. Supervisors are state of Florida elected officials and are subject to state laws that our elected officials must adhere to, such as ethics, financial disclosure, and public records. All meetings during regular monthly meetings are open to the public and workshops as well. At these meetings, they discuss budgets and policies that relate to their individual district responsibilities. That could be maintenance of infrastructure, and it also could be things like how they want to amend or adjust guidelines for community standards and enforcement of deed restrictions. The meetings are advertised and agendas on our website, districtgov.org. The board supervisors set policies, they adopt budgets, they approve contracts, and they address resident issues, concerns, and complaints. So that really, if you think of it, the Board of Supervisors are the authority by which the board for that district is governed. And it's very important because they are the checks and balances for all expenditures run through that district by their district policies. The supervisors, by Florida statute, are paid, if you will, a stipend of $200 a meeting up to a maximum of $1,400 per year. What's the Sunshine Law that we've mentioned and that the board supervisors are subject to? The Sunshine Law applies to any gathering or communication between two or more board supervisors of the same board to discuss any matter which could foreseeably come before them or is scheduled to come before them. Board members cannot utilize staff, such as myself or any other individual, to act as a go-between from one board member to another. So I cannot relate how a decision, how a board member is thinking of voting on one item and carry that from one board member to another. This is referred to as cross-pollination and would be a violation of the Sunshine Law. The Sunshine Law requires that all board meetings must be open to the public, as I mentioned before. We must give reasonable notice, which is 1 week, of that board meeting, as well as published agenda, and minutes of the meeting are taken insofar as all the action items that are presented to and taken by the Board of Supervisors. All the records, with few exceptions relating to Sunshine Law, are open to the public, and the records may be provided by the district with a simple request to the district clerk, and a copy of any board meeting can be purchased, a recording of it, for $1. And that's all in the Florida statutes. Public records. The Florida Supreme Court has determined that public records are all materials made or received by a board in connection with official business. As soon as a document is received by the district, it becomes a public record. This is very important for each of our residents to understand, because as you turn in information or you send emails to us, they immediately become public information, with very few exceptions. Some exceptions would relate to a potential, or not potential, but a filed lawsuit, or if you are a law enforcement official, some of your public information. There are a few other exceptions, but very few. The district clerk serves as the VOCDD's board custodian for all public records. Any individual can make a public records request, and state law requires the custodian honor that request. You do not have to give a reason for your request, and you do not have to explain why or when you need the request. We just need to know what the request is, and we will get that information to you as soon as reasonably practical. Requests can be made in person, on telephone, or via email or letter. State law provides the district has the authority to charge 15 cents per single-sided copy. However, if the nature of the request is extensive, the district may charge a reasonable service charge to procure those records. Public records are records that currently exist. They do not mean that we create information, if you will, for members of the public. However, we try to accommodate requests for information, and if we can provide that in a format that is understandable to you, then we do not, of course, charge the service charge. Community Development Districts 1 through 13, again, have the following sort of oversight and management of infrastructure: stormwater gutter facilities, water retention areas, villa roads. District 4 maintains all streets except Buena Vista Boulevard, as a note. And City of Wildwood, as I mentioned before, maintains all non-arterial roadways in Districts 12 and 13. Rights of way are areas that under board purview are maintained by the district boards. The landscaping, common areas, multimodal transportation paths, sign walls, fences, deed restrictions are areas of concern, supervision, management of infrastructure by the district boards 1 through 13. Project-wide fund is a concept in getting an economy of scale of management of infrastructure, common infrastructure, as well as sharing in liability. South of County Road 466, there is this unique mechanism to manage the maintenance assessments needed for common areas. Infrastructure such as landscape along major roadways, stormwater management facilities such as drainage ways and ponds, tunnels, multimodal paths are paid for through a project-wide fund based on a Board of Supervisors, Districts 5 through 13 approved method of assessment by assessable acreage. The project-wide fund receives its revenues from Districts 5 through 13, as I mentioned, Sumter Landing, and the Bromwood Community Development District based on assessable acreage, and the funds are used to maintain the common areas. And we'll discuss assessable acreage in just a second. The project-wide fund has broad oversight from the project-wide advisory committee. The committee is populated by board supervisors that are elected from the public in Districts 5 through 12. The resolution also provides that the Project-Wide Advisory Committee, or PWAC as it's commonly called, provides the following oversight. It provides input and exploration of issues and provides advice and recommendations to the Sumter Landing CDD on issues related to the maintenance of project-wide improvements. It makes a review and recommendation based on the annual budget produced by staff and presented to PWAC before it goes to the Sumter Landing CDD. It reviews and recommends the contract renewal and bid proposals that are presented to this committee and the Sumter Landing CDD board prior to Sumter Landing CDD board reviewing them for all project-wide improvement implementation areas. And it explores significant and important issues pertaining to project-wide improvements such as they may arise and provide advice and recommendations to the Sumter Landing CDD. So that might include a different methodology for handling erosion along a revetment, or a different methodology for handling lighting going to LED at some of our facilities around the districts. You see here a sort of Venn diagram where management services are provided to all districts by the Village Center Community Development District. And you see in the middle the Village Center CDD that basically purveys the employees, the overhead, and general government structure that I mentioned before to these various recipient agencies of the numbered districts 1 through 13, the VCDD, they're the VCDDs, the NSCUD, Special North Sumter County Utility Dependent District, Sumter Landing CDD, and Bromwood CDD, as well as we contract for the developer and they pay us dollar for dollar for certain services. And those services may include the new recreation centers south of State Road 44 that aren't currently or yet owned by the district government. Village Center CDD management services includes those services which keep a government running. And I described a few of those just a minute ago. The VCDD can be thought of as sort of a management company that provides the CDDs and NSCUD a benefit from the economy of scale. We've talked a little bit about how those contracts are procured insofar as offered across all of the village area. So you can think of an economy of scale that it's much better to get a bid on hundreds and hundreds of acres of pond maintenance versus 1 or 2 or 3 ponds that are located in a portion of a unit development of just one district. And the types of services The costs allocated to other CDs and NSCUD are things that I've described, like the personnel, of course, buildings, overhead, electric phones, landscaping, operating supplies, and equipment inclusive of the fleet vehicles. Amenity fees are totally different from maintenance fees, and amenity fees are a fee for service that you as a resident of the villages signs in a contract in exchange for those amenity services. Think of them as the picture shown here, including all of our recreation facilities, which most people most commonly think of as paid for by their amenity fees. When offered from the developer, the amenity fee contractual agreements were sold to the VCCDD and SUMTER Landing CDD, who provides the amenities in accordance with your contractual obligation with the developer. And again, the amenity fee is a fee for those services. Those amenity fees pay for all of the ongoing maintenance, upkeep, and capital budgets for those amenity structural and fleet elements. The payment of an amenity fee is required through the contract you signed when you bought your home, and that's a contract with what is commonly noted as the developer. The contract requires you to adhere to the declaration of restrictions for your unit and your lot. The amenity fee is paid in exchange for amenity services and is a fee for services, as I mentioned. Depending on your restrictions, your amenity fee increases every year or every 3 years. For most parties, it's every year, and it goes to a new prevailing rate based on the CPI that is in place at the time of the original sale of your home to the original homeowner. The current prevailing rate for all new homeowners and resales after January 1st, 2021 is $164 per month. The amenity fees are broken down as follows. There are 22,564 amenity fees north of County Road 466. The VCCDD owns 21,964 of these amenity fees north of County Road 466, including 258 assisted living facility units, and 300 new villa units will be owned by the VLS, and an additional 300 units have been approved by the AAC. Now, recent actions by the AAC have altered some of those numbers with regard to some of the Hacienda Hills development. SUMTER Landing CDD owns 37,332 amenity fees south of County Road 466. 36,565 are currently paying the amenity fee because those are the rooftops that are currently constructed and owned by the district. SUMTER Landing CDD purchased an additional 6,604 amenity fees south of County Road 466 in 2005, and then the bulk was purchased in 2016 with a major purchase of SUMTER Landing CDD from all of the recreation facilities. Along with that came the rooftop amenity fees that pay for the ongoing maintenance and operation and capital maintenance of those facilities. The VLS developer, if you will, owns several thousand amenity fees south of State Road 44 in the Fenney and other areas of District 12 and District 13. Those rooftop amenity fee privileges are not owned by the district, if you will, and the associated executive courses, recreational facilities, the recreational areas, and the actual recreation centers are owned and maintained by the developer. That's a total of 61,996 rooftop amenity fees across the board. The VCCDD, SUMTER Landing CDD, and Bromwood CDD all play special and different roles in our government. The VCCDD, SUMTER Landing CDD, and Bromwood CDD were established in the state of Florida subject to local government approval like all the CDDs. The VCCDD, SUMTER Landing CDD, and Bromwood CDD are commercial districts, as I referred to earlier, and each of them provide a multitude of services funded through various sources. There's a list here that I will not read through of the Community Development District, the VCCDD areas, if you will, of responsibilities. They include the Recreational Amenity Division. It's basically those recreation areas and also a portion of Community Watch and water retention areas, as well as executive golf courses that exist north of County Road 466. wastewater and water services. They're funded, of course, through user fees, and that would be the LSSA and VCSA utilities. Villages Public Safety is partially funded through VCCDD amenities revenue, as well as through Sumter Landing CDD amenities revenue. And there is a litany of other revenue sources for our public safety operations. The Village of Spanish Springs assessment program is unique and funds through assessments the properties and maintenance in the VCDD geographic area of the Village of Spanish Springs. This provides for the operation, maintenance, and the costs of the Village of Spanish Springs and Rolling Acres Plaza, sidewalks, landscaping, parking lots, decor, janitorial, and Christmas decorations, and provides those services from the direct benefits or benefactors of those services. The AAC was established in 2008 to provide discretion over non-bond recreation amenity division funds, the rate setting of amenity fee user fees, the policy control over operations of amenity facilities and services. However, the AAC, the Amenity Authority Committee, is prohibited from establishing disparate services north and south of County Road 466, as they are concerned with the area north of 466, but we want to have uniformity across our services, whether north or south of County Road 466, and is restricted from involvement in public safety, management fees, and services. Sumter Landing provides services and oversight of the common areas described within this litany here, shown on this slide, and that's the Sumter Landing CDD. The Village's public safety is funded through amenity fees in part, and Sumter Landing CDD provides funding to the Village Center CDD for Village's public safety. It's quite a mouthful when you go through this. And Lake Sumter Landing Assessment Program, as described here. And management fees are provided by the VCCDD as provided to each of the recipient numbered districts as well as NSCUD and prorationed out based on the consumption of those services. Sumter Landing CDD has an advisory committee, PWAC, just as VCCDD has an advisory committee of AAC. They look after, by Resolution 1711, discretion of all non-bond recreational amenity division funds, the rate setting of amenity facility user fees south of County Road 466, policy over the operations of amenity fees and services. They are prohibited, as is AAC, from establishing disparate services north and south of County Road 466. And they are restricted from involvement with the public safety and management fees and services. I want to thank you for your attention and also just remind you this is just an overview of your special district local government services. If you have additional questions or need for information, please contact us at districtgov.org. That's districtgov.org, or call us through customer service, where you'll always reach a live person at 352-753-4508. Again, I'm Richard Baer, your district manager, thanking you for your attention in your local government today. Thank you.